It is time for Q&A. You ask the questions, I'm going to provide the answers and a little bit of information and some potential stories. So let's get right into it. Welcome to the most passionate content for card collectors on YouTube and possibly the whole entire internet. As usual, I am your host, Jake Roy, 90s b-ball cards here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, a little bit more TikTok, and a little bit more Twitter. Not so much TikTok. Messed that up. Anyway, so today we've got the Q&A. I'm really excited. You asked some great questions, some fun stuff, some that might get a little bit spicy if you wait till the end. Try to keep it PG. But I'm excited to share with you the questions that you asked. We're going to keep it fairly brief. I'm going to keep it to 10 or 12 questions just for brevity's sake. So if I don't get to your question in the Q&A, I will respond to you separately. Or you can just choose to ask it next time. So we'll have another one coming up eventually. So without any further ado, let's get into the questions and I'll provide my answers. Let's get right into it. Alright, let's jump in. I will show you the screenshot of the person who submitted the question. So let's get right into the question. So the first one we've got here, what card in your collection means the most to you and what is the story behind it? So very hard to pick just one, but if I had to, I think I would probably go with the 93-94 Topps Finest Refractor Rookie of Penny. That one happens to be in a PSA 9. The reason why, so that was a gift from my brother, a very generous gift. He knew it was one that I had always really wanted to get into my collection. It had always eluded me. But also part of the reason why it's a PSA 9, he knew that, some of them online, if he's getting one, tend to go, misidentified and stuff. So getting one that was already slabbed and identified as a refractor is the safer way for him to go. But also the first ever graded card that I was gifted, or that I had in my collection period, was the base rookie from my dad, which also happened to be a PSA 9. So now I've basically got PSA 9 twins of the base, which was a Christmas gift from my dad, and then the PSA 9 refractor, which was then also a gift from my brother. So the refractor harkens really to two cards, one of them being the first, and really a very big gift for me as a Christmas gift, and then, that other one. So that's probably the most meaningful, very nostalgic card for me in my collection. The next question we've got, what's the one card that you absolutely would love to own? I did make sure to check with the person asking the question that it was one that he wanted me to specify was one that I'm looking to own, not one that I already own. So with that in mind, kind of thinking back to the top 10 list that we did a while back, the top 10 cards that I wanted in my PC, and the number one card on that list is still one that I'm trying to get, which is the 98-99 UD Choice, or Upper Deck Collector's Choice, which is what it was before, Star Quest Gold or 4-star of Penny. So that one's numbered to 100. Very few copies out there. A lot of them have significant damage. At least one I know was identified by one of the grading companies as trimmed, so that makes there only 99 that I would want in my collection, in all honesty. So it's one of those cards that also brings back some good fond memories. My dad loved that UD Choice set, got us a number of boxes. In all honesty, he probably would have ended up saving money if instead of buying as many boxes he did, he just got us a whole case. And it's kind of curious to think, if he had gotten a case, would we have pulled one of those gold or prime, which were two of the chase cards that we were going over, trying to figure out, what they might look like. At that time, finding pictures on eBay was not really something you would see. So that year for Christmas and then subsequent, birthdays and other events, my dad got us a box and we'd rip through, hoping we'd find a prime, hoping we'd find a gold, so neither of those got in our collections. But since then, I did get a prime of Penny, which is great. I still want that gold. That set has also taken off in value since, I started looking at it years ago. So, in the last couple of years, it's really taken off. So it's getting even harder for me to even imagine getting it in my collection, but who knows what might happen. So that's still number one that I would love to get in my collection. All right, next question. How would you rate Penny as a player if he wasn't injured? So a lot of people know Penny's career was off to a rip-roaring trajectory, and then knee injuries really derailed it early into his career. So the first 3 or 4 years, he was, touted as being the next Jordan, the next Magic Johnson, all kinds of great stuff. And then those injuries really hurt him, Shaq leaving, all that kind of stuff. So if he wasn't injured, if he was healthy, he's one of the great what-ifs, along with people like Grant Hill, Derrick Rose. Some people even put Tracy McGrady on that list, even though he still had a very storied career. So it's really hard to say. If I look at, a player who kind of comps similarly to, statistics and accolades in their first 2 or 3 seasons, he's very similar to Luka, but saying he's going to be what Luka is kind of, Luka, we still don't know exactly what his career is going to be. So, to say that Penny would have been Magic Johnson, I think is a stretch. But obviously, in my heart, I'm going to say he would be, the greatest to ever play. But I think he probably would have been, really on par with a guy like Kobe Bryant in terms of, fandom, collectability, all that kind of stuff. I think it would have been Kobe and Penny for a number of years battling. It would have been interesting to see if he stayed in Orlando, if he still went to Phoenix, all that kind of stuff. So I think he would be that level of a star. He had all the notoriety, see Little Penny, his shoes, all that kind of stuff. He's a big commercial success. I think he would have been a big success in the NBA. The question of championships also play in there, and that's really hard to know. If he stays in Orlando, would they get some free agents or get some really good draft picks? Probably not the draft picks, because they probably would have been better, so it probably would have had to be trades and or free agency. So there's a whole lot of what ifs, because that's a big piece of people's legacy, is what are the accolades that they get, more so than even the numbers. But I think he would have been a potential triple-double, definitely a double-double machine. He was good for a double-double almost every night. So, yeah. I think he would have been one of the greatest of the 90s and into the early 2000s as well. All right, the next one, we've got top 10 collectible NBA players, and it was hard. NBA players. This is from the 90s, so let's make sure we're specific on that. So this is really hard to hone it down to just 10. Obviously, you've got MJ. He's going to be number 1, and then Kobe's probably a very there's a gulf between the two of them, but he's very definitely high up there for number 2. Then after that, I think you're into another tier. I think in that next tier you've got guys like Penny and Allen Iverson, Shaq, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and then some of the other guys that rounded out. I would put Vince Carter in there. Obviously, he didn't start playing until the late 90s, so he only has a couple of years, but he has some great cards, and I think he definitely deserves a nod there. Dennis Rodman, I think, is way up there. He has some fantastic cards, but also a very photogenic player, very colorful player, and also very nostalgic with those Bulls uniforms. Then I think you've got a number of players that could contend for that 10 spot. I would put Charles Barkley there. I really love Charles Barkley cards, especially with the Suns. I think those are a lot of fun cards that he has there. But then there's a lot of other players, so just really going to rattle through the next list of players. We've got Grant Hill, Reggie Miller, Scottie Pippen, David Robinson, John Stockton, Hakeem Olajuwon, Magic Johnson, Patrick Ewing, and I could keep going on and on. There are a bunch of great players. If you're looking for somebody to collect in the 90s that has some great cards, you don't just have to go for Jordan or Kobe. There are a ton of great players, and all kinds of price points as well for those great players. So lots of great stuff. But those are, I think, the 10 for me. MJ, Kobe, Penny, Iverson, Shaq, KG, Duncan, VC, or Vince Carter, Rodman, and Barkley. All right, the next one here, we've got, favorite 90s set serial numbered to less than 100 copies. And as soon as I saw this, I knew my answer. There are a lot of sets that are numbered to 99 that we could go with, but there is one that definitely stands out that is much less, and that would be the 99-2000. So really getting to the very, very end of the 90s. 99-2000 Topps Stadium Club Chrome first day issue refractors, which are numbered to just 25. And luckily, I have the penny. It is in a BGS 10, which just adds a little bit extra to it. I've got a couple others also from that set, but it's one that really all started because my dad, again, helped me with a lot of my childhood memories for cards, and for Christmas, it got me a Rod Strickland first day issue and the first day issue refractor. So that was when I really learned about those cards and how rare they were, and the first day issue being numbered to 100 and then the first day issue refractors being numbered to just 25. Ever since then, I dreamt of getting the penny, you know, and all the other players that I collected, but the penny was definitely the pinnacle of that. So now I finally have that, which is great. And I was able to move that Rod Strickland onto a collector who collects Rod Strickland, which is always happy when that works out for everybody. So that's definitely the one for me. All right, the next one, this is a tough one. So what's the oldest card in your collection? Do you collect cards from the 80s and earlier? So, you know, if we're looking at my core PC, there aren't any cards that would really classify, because, you know, my core PC is really just players from the 90s. Penny, Iverson, KG, you know, and then rounding it out, you've also got guys like Michael Finley, Vince Carter, Lamar Odom, Baron Davis, and then some Magic players from the 90s, and then inserts from the 90s. So those are my core PCs. So none of those even played in the 80s or before. But I do have some baseball cards that I got from my uncle a long time ago, and there's a card who is a manager from the Red Sox named Del Baker, if I remember correctly. I think that was from 1954 tops, perhaps. I might be mixing that up, but I'll try to flash a picture of it. You might know better than I do which one that is. But that is in my collection. It's not one that's going to be in my collection forever. It's in bad shape, but, you know, it's kind of a fun memory. I'm pretty sure that's the oldest one at this point in time. But there are some cards that are on my list of cards that I want to get from the 80s and before. One of the all-time favorite cards of mine was the Dr. J Topps rookie. I've always wanted that card. I will get it at some point in my collection. The question is what the grade would be. You know, honestly, a good-looking Eye Appeal PSA 2 is something that I would love to get, but that's definitely one. And then probably the oldest card that I have on my list of cards that I eventually want to get is a 1956 Topps Jackie Robinson. There's just something about that 1956 Topps set that I really enjoy, with kind of like the watercolor paint background with the in-action photo of the player, or, you know, painting of the player. You know, so there's a lot of great players in that set, but the one of Jackie Robinson, I think he's sliding into a base, which is just, you know, something that's definitely harkens back to what he was known for. You know, and Jackie Robinson, just a player that you can't tell the story of baseball without. And I, you know, don't have many of his cards. I would love to have a lot of his cards, but you know, vintage stuff, especially of Jackie Robinson, is hard to come by, and I don't enjoy the reprints as much. So that's definitely one. So those are two cards that are definitely from well before the 80s that I would love to get in my collection. All right, the next one, what do you prefer, Beckett or PSA? So my preference, if I'm going to get a PC card graded, is BGS. A lot of nostalgia from the 90s, as well as I like the look of the holders, but I want them only in 8.5s and above. We'll see what happens with the new flips, but I like the silver, definitely like the gold for the 9.5s, and the 10s. Black labels would be incredible. So that's my preference for PC. If I'm looking to potentially move something, whether it's in the short term or in the long term, would be PSA. Right now, the market yields more for PSA cards. I think that kind of goes without saying for most people. But, you know, looking at some of the other stuff, SGC and CSG are ones that I'm okay with for PC cards as well. I have no qualms with having those slabs, but other ones, I'd rather have them raw. So those are the four that I'm okay with, but BGS is definitely the one that I like the most for most of my PC if I have the option. Next one here, the same person asked this question, and I think the next one as well. What's your opinion on altered cards? Then he goes on to say that he wants to buy an MJ Fleer rookie, but he's not sure. So I'm going to go off of some assumptions as far as what you're looking for here. My opinion on altered cards is they are bad news. I would stay away from them. If I know that something is altered or I think something's altered, I don't want any part of it. In terms of my opinion on whether or not a Jordan card could be altered, you know, it's possible. If I was going to be buying a Jordan rookie card, I would want it to be graded in one of those companies that I trust. So for me, I would want it in PSA, BGS, SGC, or CSG are the only ones that I would go for. And I probably, personally, would rather BGS. So that's my preference, and that's how I'd probably go with it. But again, we've seen some copies that have gotten into, I can't say necessarily copies of the Jordan rookie, but copies of cards in general that have gotten into graded slabs that have later been proven to be altered. So You know, definitely buyer beware, be careful of it, but that's the way that I would probably go. I know that once you start getting into graded Jordan rookies, the price just keeps going up and up, but not only alterations, but you also have to worry about counterfeits and fakes and all that kind of stuff with Jordan rookies. So lots to look out for. That's why I'd go with a graded copy if it was my choice. All right, last one, I believe, from the same person. I want to exchange 100 Kobe inserts valued at $5,000 for one card. What's your opinion? Great. If you can do that, if you're able to move all of those Kobe's and get the one card that you want, and that's the key for me anyway, in my collection, is focusing less so on the value of the card or cards in question and more so how much I want them or desire them. So if there's a card that's of Kobe that you want that's in that $5,000 price point, go for it, have a blast, and I wish you great luck. But if you're gonna regret moving some of those cards that are lesser valued, you know, then I'd think twice and maybe focus on the ones that you aren't as enamored with. Move those ones, keep the ones that you love, keep the ones that you have, you know, some sort of tie to, you know. So it's really an individual choice, but if it's something that you are willing to move those, you're happy to move those, and you're able to get a card with those that makes you even happier, I think it's great. All right, long one here. So I know a lot of my core collecting was through the time that is often referred to as the junk wax era. What are your thoughts on the possibility that people may look back on the current era of this hobby as the junk slab, junk auto, junk patch, and dare I say the junk one of one era? So one of the things that I learned a while ago, probably even before I started my channel, from Linguist Sports Cards actually, who's a wealth of knowledge, I don't like, just like he doesn't like, the term the junk wax era. There's a lot of things that get lumped into that. Some people have different definitions. Some people just say all of the 90s is junk wax, and you know that is not true, and you know that's, you know, definitely hitting my heart. Some people will specify certain, you know, years in the 90s or the late 80s. Sometimes it could be different for different sports. So I just don't like that term. I think it's, you know, too generalized, because obviously there are some great cards in what I think a lot of people would classify as the junk wax era. You know, there are some great rookies from that. There are some iconic cards, and there are just some great nostalgic cards that it doesn't matter how much they were printed. You know, they are hard to find in good grades. They didn't stand the test of time. People want to have multiple copies, all kinds of things. So I kind of reject that term of junk wax, but I understand what people are saying when they say it. I just think we need to be a little bit more specific and less generalized with that. So in terms of how people are going to look back, again, the junk slab conversation has been out there. I don't really prescribe to that, and the reason why is because I think that, you know, people, regardless of the slab, regardless of the card, might have a desire to have it slabbed, even if it's just for the protection. Even if you can get a card in a 9 that's the same price as the same card raw, some people would prefer having it already slabbed, protected, knowing the condition, rather than taking the risk. So I think there's always going to be some sort of value in that. You know, whether or not it's your personal taste is a different question and different conversation. But for me, even, there are some cards that I have in my collection that have been graded a 1, you know, or low grades, that I want to know that they're authentic, or I think it's kind of fun to have it in such a low grade, stuff like that. So there's all kinds of reasons why you might want a card slabbed, regardless of the value. So again, I don't like that term junk slab. In terms of the autos, I think people look now at on-card autos, slabbed or sticker autos very differently. So on-card autos, I think, are always going to have some sort of desirability for most collectors. Sticker autos, I think might be something that people grow a little bit more and more tired of over time. Even the ones that are rare, serial numbered, all that kind of stuff, it's still a sticker auto. Patches, I think we need to delineate what a patch and a jersey card are. I think that people are starting to look more closely at the back of the card. Is it player worn? Is it event worn? Is it game worn? Or is it none of the above? I think, you know, patches, when you've got, you know, a piece of some extra color, are also going to be more desirable than just a swatch. It's just a, you know, plain piece of jersey. So I think all of those pieces also add to the context and make certain things more desirable than others. So if you're looking at, like, you know, a jersey card from Prism that's just a, you know, not even worn by the player, and it's just a, you know, a white piece of a Spurs jersey, yeah, that might be considered something you're gonna find in a dollar bin. But there's, every card has its home. Yeah, every card has something that somebody's gonna like. So you know, again, not junk. One of ones, definitely not something that I focus on my collection. I think we've kind of overdone the one of one thing. You can look at printing plates and all kinds of stuff like that. But at the same time, some people love one of ones and they want just one of ones in their collection. I think there's enough of them out there that people can do that. So again, I don't think that any of this stuff is junk. It just matters what is important to you and your collection. In the modern era, there's so much stuff out there. There's so many different colors, numbered variations, all kinds of stuff that you really have to be specific. You can't collect everything. So I think that's the more important thing as people look back at this modern era, is figuring out what they specifically want to focus on and being very deliberate about that. All right, I think this is one that we've gotten asked pretty much every time that we had a Q&A. So where do you buy your packs? And the answer is anywhere I can find them. A lot of them come online from eBay. Sometimes, pick them up at shows if I can find them. Last year at National, I picked some up. I just ripped them in the hotel room. The year before that, I picked some up that I have still yet to rip. So I grab them when I can find them. I hold on to them until the time is right to open them, whether I open them on camera or open them for fun. If I can find retail at Walmart or Target, I definitely grab that. I don't like paying extra for retail, so I try to wait until I can find it, if I can find it at retail prices. So yeah, anywhere I can find it really. And if sometimes people come to me and DM me and say, hey, I found some stuff, are you interested? That's another avenue as well. So there we go with that. All right, this next one, I debated whether or not I was even going to address this. I've been getting a lot of questions about this recently, so want to keep this PG because I have kids. They watch the channel sometimes, so if you want a more spirited debate and conversation, feel free to DM me. I will not debate this with you. If you want more of my perspectives, DM me at your own decision, but some of that stuff, depending on how it goes, I might not respond to. So the question was, why do you dislike Karl Malone? Why do you love Penny? So let's address the second part first, the more enjoyable part. I love Penny because of all the nostalgia, all the fond memories from the Magic, the days when he was playing against the Bulls. There's a whole lot. I've talked a lot about that story as far as how I became a Penny player, but it's a lot of nostalgia. Love the Magic uniforms, love the cards of him. And he just brings back a lot of good memories. All right. As for the aforementioned player, I don't like mentioning their name. He was a great player, prolific player on the court. Can't take that away from him. Off the court, we have since learned after his playing days, he was very flawed person. Did a lot of very bad things. When people ask in the comments, I tend to send them a link to an article that talks about some of those things, and on some occasions people push back on that. Recently I had one person try to defend him in his actions to a 13-year-old girl, which are indefensible. So if somebody wants to defend that, that is their own issue that they need to seek some help with. There is no defense for what he did to that girl, and she was a child. So there's that. But also there are a lot of other stories about just unsavory behavior. I mean, even there's a story about Kobe Bryant and Vanessa Bryant, not being comfortable with some of the comments that he made to Vanessa, didn't want him around their family. So they had to go and talk to ownership about, keeping him away from them, which I think also just paints a picture of who he was as a teammate. So just an unsavory guy. Also, a lot of these kids that he had that he refused to acknowledge until they happened to become professional athletes, just all around not a good person. And there's a lot of other people who have done some unsavory things, but I think when you start, physically harming other people, there's a line that you've crossed. You can talk about players that, like Ray Caruth, that I don't think anybody is trying to say he's collectible, regardless of what his career was, because of the things that he did outside of the playing career. So again, if you harm another person, whether or not you're a prolific athlete or whoever you are, I think that you've crossed a line, and not something that I really have time for. So that's the PG version of my feelings on that player. That's why I don't like mentioning him, and I don't like his cards. So that's that's the fiery take there, or a little bit of spicy. Again, trying to keep it PG because, like I said, my family, my kids, they watch this stuff. I mean, and personally, there's people that I know personally that have been affected by things that he has done, not like from him, but other people that have done the same things to them. When you know somebody that you like, and you know, have a personal relationship with, friends, family members, whatever the case may be, it has a personal effect on them, it has a personal effect on you, and I think that we can all agree that we wouldn't want that to happen to anybody that we care for. So that's my feelings there. So ending it not on a high note. So that's the end of that conversation. And that's the end of the Q&A. So that's what we've got time for today. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss any videos in the future. New videos dropping once, sometimes twice a week. We do occasional Q&As, pack openings, looks into my PC, grading reveals, occasional collector interviews, and so much more. Thanks. We'll talk later.